The wind howled across the metallic plains of Novus Prime, a sound that had become as familiar to Dr. Alina Volkov as her own heartbeat. 37 years of human settlement had transformed this unforgiving world from an impossible dream to a testament of human determination. Through the reinforced observation dome, Alina watched the swirling metallic dust storms that gave the planet its nickname, the Rust World. Most would have called it uninhabitable. Humans called it home. The colony of New Horizons stretched before her, an intricate network of underground habitats, surface-hardened domes, and adaptive infrastructure that seemed to breathe with the planet's harsh rhythms. Each structure was a marvel of engineering, designed to withstand conditions that would obliterate most known life forms. Alina's communication panel chirped. It was Dr. Marcus Reyes, the colony's chief environmental engineer. "Alina, you're going to want to see this," his voice crackled with an unusual tension. Minutes later, they stood together in the central research hub. Holographic displays flickered with data from the planet's outer sensors. Something was approaching, something artificial. "It's not one of ours," Marcus muttered, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "The energy signature is alien." The first contact team arrived with calculated precision. Their vessel was unlike anything humanity had previously imagined, a crystalline structure that seemed to phase in and out of visual perception, defying known laws of physics. Three beings emerged. They were tall, almost translucent, with multiple limbs that moved with liquid grace. Their leader, distinguished by an intricate pattern of luminescent markings, stepped forward. "Designation, humanity. Colony, Novus Prime," the being spoke, its words translated through a device that seemed to parse language at a molecular level. "Preliminary assessment, survival improbable." Alina couldn't help but smile. Improbable had never stopped humans before. The alien expedition had come to study humanity's most remote settlement, a colony established on a planet that conventional wisdom deemed uninhabitable. Novus Prime was a world of extreme metallurgical composition, with dust storms that could strip metal from machinery in hours, radiation levels that would kill most carbon-based life forms, and temperature fluctuations that ranged from absolute zero to molten temperatures within a single planetary rotation. Yet here they were, humans surviving, thriving. "You've been watching us," Alina responded, her voice calm and measured. "We know about the long-range probes. We know you've been studying us for years." The alien leader's multiple eyes, if they could be called eyes, seemed to refract light in impossible ways. "Observation suggests imminent colony collapse, resources insufficient, environmental conditions terminal." Marcus stepped forward, a device in his hand that looked like a simple metal cube. "Want to see something interesting?" With a subtle movement, he activated the device. Instantly, the surrounding environment transformed. Nanomechanical systems embedded in the colony's infrastructure began to shift, absorbing and redistributing the harsh metallic dust. Radiation-converting panels flickered to life, turning the planet's most dangerous element into a source of sustainable energy. The alien delegation went completely still. Humanity's strength had never been about brute force or overwhelming technological superiority. It was adaptation, creativity, the ability to look at an impossible situation and see not a dead end, but a challenge to be solved. Alina knew this was more than just a scientific expedition. This was a test, an assessment of humanity's potential. And they were just getting started. As the alien delegation continued their silent observation, the winds of Novus Prime continued to howl, a sound that no longer represented hostility, but the persistent spirit of a species that refused to be defined by limitations. The first chapter of humanity's unexpected journey was about to be written. The alien delegation remained on Novus Prime for what humans measured as standard weeks, though time seemed to flow differently for the crystalline beings. Dr. Alina Volkov and Dr. Marcus Reyes became their primary points of contact, a task that required every ounce of diplomatic skill and scientific creativity they possessed. Commander Kai Nakamura watched from the secondary observation deck. As the colony's chief of strategic development, he understood that this encounter was more than a scientific curiosity. It was a potential turning point for humanity's future. "They're trying to understand us," Marcus explained during a late-night strategy session. Holographic displays flickered with comparative data, human technological adaptations versus established galactic engineering principles. But they're fundamentally incapable of comprehending our approach. The alien observers had been increasingly perplexed by humanity's technological ecosystem. On Novus Prime, every piece of technology was a living, adaptive system. Machines weren't just tools, they were symbiotic extensions of human survival instinct. Take the colony's environmental reclamation system, for instance. Where most civilizations would build massive, rigid infrastructure, humans had developed a network of nano-adaptive modules that could reshape themselves in real time. Dust storms that would destroy conventional machinery became sources of raw material. Radiation became energy. Extreme temperatures became opportunities for innovation. "Watch this," Kai said, activating a demonstration for the alien research team. A small drone-like device emerged from a protective casing. But it wasn't just a drone. It was a complex ecosystem of adaptive technology. As it moved across the metallic landscape, its exterior continuously analyzed and integrated with the environment. Microscopic components shifted, reconfigured, absorbed, and transformed. The alien lead researcher, whom they had informally named Refractor due to its light-refracting capabilities, studied the demonstration with what could only be described as confusion. "Inefficient," Refractor stated. "Constant reconfiguration requires exponential energy expenditure." Elena smiled. "Inefficient by whose standards?" The demonstration continued. The drone didn't just survive the harsh environment, it thrived. Its very existence was a constant negotiation with the world around it. Each moment was an adaptation, a conversation between technology and environment. "Your technological paradigm is linear," Marcus explained. "Ours is recursive. We don't fight the environment, we collaborate with it." The alien delegation's initial assessment of humanity had been simple. A species barely capable of interstellar travel, surviving on the most marginal of planetary conditions. But with each passing day, that assessment was being dramatically rewritten. Kai understood the deeper implications. Humanity's technological philosophy was fundamentally different from other known civilizations. Where others saw obstacles, humans saw puzzles. Where others built to resist, humans built to adapt. "We're not just surviving," he often told his team. "We're having a conversation with the universe." The research continued. The alien delegation collected data, their crystalline forms almost vibrating with the intensity of their observation. They were witnessing something unprecedented, a species that didn't just use technology, but conceived of it as a living, breathing entity. Unbeknownst to everyone, these observations were being transmitted across vast galactic networks. Humanity was no longer just a footnote in some xenobiological database. They were becoming something else entirely. A potential, a threat, a mystery. As the metallic winds of Novus Prime continued their eternal dance, humanity continued to write its unexpected story, one adaptation at a time. The galactic communication networks hummed with an unprecedented level of activity. The data collected from Novus Prime had triggered something profound, a ripple of concern that spread across multiple advanced civilizations. Dr. Zara Kovalenko, humanity's lead xenopolitical strategist, watched the encrypted transmissions with a mixture of anticipation and caution. The alien delegation had departed from Novus Prime weeks ago, but their observations had set in motion a chain of events that would reshape galactic dynamics. In the central command center of the colony, a holographic display revealed a growing constellation of potential threats. Something was coming, something that had been watching, waiting, calculating. "The convergence is mobilizing," Commander Kai Nakamura said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "The convergence, A collective of advanced civilizations that had long maintained a delicate balance of power in the known galaxy was taking notice of humanity. Dr. Marcus Reyes entered the command center, his latest research clutched in a data crystal. "They're beginning to understand what we've known all along," he said. "Survival isn't about overwhelming force, it's about adaptability." The threat wasn't just military, it was existential. The alien civilizations had discovered something that both fascinated and terrified them. Humanity's technological approach was fundamentally different from anything they had encountered. Where most advanced civilizations saw technology as a tool to be controlled, humans saw it as a living, evolving ecosystem. Intelligence reports suggested the convergence was deliberating humanity's status. Were they a potential ally, a threat to be neutralized, or something entirely unpredictable? Zara pulled up a series of comparative analyses. Humanity's technological development curve was exponential and completely unlike any known species. On Novus Prime, they had transformed a world that should have been impossible into a thriving ecosystem. Their adaptive technologies were creating solutions to problems that other civilizations had considered unsolvable for millennia. "They're scared," Kai observed, studying the encrypted communications. "Not of our current capabilities, but of our potential." A deep space monitoring station pinged. Something was approaching the outer edges of the solar system. Multiple signatures, unlike any known vessel design. The convergence was making its first move. Marcus activated a series of defensive protocols, but these were unlike traditional military preparations. The colony's defenses were a living, breathing system. Nano-adaptive modules began to reconfigure. Energy absorption systems primed themselves. Every piece of infrastructure became a potential defense mechanism. "This isn't about fighting," Zara explained to the assembled team. "This is about demonstrating our true nature." The approaching vessels represented the most advanced military technology in the known galaxy. Sleek, powerful, designed to overwhelm through sheer technological superiority. They were about to encounter something they couldn't comprehend. Humanity. As the first wave of convergence vessels approached, the metallic planes of Novus Prime began to shift. The entire planet seemed to come alive, not as a battlefield, but as a complex, adaptive organism. The gathering storm was about to break, and humanity would show the galaxy exactly what it meant to survive. The first wave of convergence vessels descended upon Novus Prime like a metallic storm. Their technology represented centuries of refined warfare, precise, calculated, overwhelming. They expected a quick capitulation, a demonstration of galactic might against what they perceived as a primitive colony. They were about to learn the true meaning of human ingenuity. Commander Kai Nakamura stood in the colony's primary defense coordination center. Around him, a team of specialists worked with an almost musical precision. But this wasn't a traditional military operation. It was a symphony of adaptation. "Incoming energy signature," Lieutenant Aria Rodriguez called out. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe and pulse with living data. "Convergence vessels preparing primary offensive protocols." Dr. Marcus Reyes leaned in, his eyes reflecting the complex network of defensive systems. "They're thinking like machines," he muttered. "We're thinking like an ecosystem." The convergence vessels unleashed their first wave of attacks, concentrated energy beams designed to obliterate planetary defenses. But Novus Prime was no ordinary planet. As the energy struck the surface, something extraordinary happened. The metallic landscape didn't just absorb the attack, it transformed it. Nano-adaptive modules across the planet's surface began to reconfigure. Energy waves were not just deflected, but captured, transformed, redirected. What should have been a devastating assault became a source of additional power for the colony's defensive systems. "Energy absorption at 247%, Aria reported, a hint of excitement in her voice. "Defensive matrix is redistributing." The convergence command ships went silent for a moment, a rare display of collective confusion. Zara Kovalenko, watching from the Strategic Analysis Center, understood the deeper implication. This wasn't just defense. This was a fundamental reimagining of warfare itself. Traditional military doctrine assumed a clear distinction between offense and defense. Humanity's approach blurred those lines completely. Every attack became an opportunity, every obstacle a potential resource. The colony's defensive systems were alive, quite literally. Nanomechanical structures shifted and adapted in real time, creating complex defensive patterns that defied traditional computational models. Where most civilizations would build walls, humans created membranes. Where others would concentrate force, humans distributed and transformed energy. "They're trying to understand our system," Marcus explained to the command team. "But our system is designed to be fundamentally incomprehensible." The second wave of convergence attacks came. This time, they attempted more complex attack vectors, multiple energy frequencies, synchronized assault patterns designed to overwhelm any known defensive system. Novus Prime responded by becoming something else entirely. The entire planetary surface began to move, not in a way that suggested mechanical resistance, but in a manner reminiscent of a living organism adapting to a threat. Defensive modules merged, split, transformed. Energy waves were not just absorbed but metabolized. Lieutenant Rodriguez tracked the impossible data streams. "We're not just defending," she said, her voice a mix of wonder and determination. "We're learning." Each convergence attack provided new information. Each assault became a lesson, integrated instantly into the colony's adaptive systems. What should have been a battle was transforming into something else, a complex, dynamic conversation between technology and environment. Commander Kai watched the holographic displays, seeing beyond the immediate conflict. This was more than a defensive action. This was a statement about the fundamental nature of human survival. Adaptation wasn't just a strategy, it was a way of being. As the metallic planes of Novus Prime continued to shift and breathe, the convergence vessels began to realize a terrifying truth. They were no longer fighting a colony. They were facing something entirely new. The silence was more terrifying than the battle itself. After hours of relentless assault, the convergence fleet had gone completely still. Their massive vessels hung in orbit around Novus Prime like suspended thoughts, processing what had just occurred. Dr. Zara Kovalenko studied the long-range sensors with an intensity that bordered on meditation. "They're recalculating," she murmured to Commander Kai Nakamura. "Everything they understood about technological warfare has just been rewritten." The planetary defense systems of Novus Prime continued their subtle, almost imperceptible movements. What the convergence had seen as a simple colony was now revealing itself as something far more complex, a living, adaptive organism that defied conventional understanding. Lieutenant Aria Rodriguez interfaced with the colony's central communication network. "Incoming transmission," she announced. "Direct communication request from the Convergence primary command vessel." The holographic display flickered to life. The representative was unlike any they had encountered before, a being composed of intersecting energy patterns, more information than physical form. When it spoke, the words seemed to materialize from the very air around them. "Explain," the entity demanded. Not a question, not a threat, simply a request for comprehension. Dr. Marcus Reyes stepped forward. His presentation wasn't a military briefing, it was a philosophical revelation. "Survival is not about resistance," he began. "It's about conversation. Every challenge is an opportunity to evolve, to transform, to understand." The convergence representative remained still, or as still as a being of pure energy could be. Zara continued where Marcus left off. "You approached us with the assumption of conflict. We responded with adaptation. Our technology is not a tool, it's an extension of our understanding." Holographic displays began to show the intricate dance of Novus Prime's defensive systems. How energy attacks were not just deflected, but understood. How each assault became a source of new information, new potential. The colony itself was a living testament to human innovation. Every module, every system was interconnected, not through rigid programming, but through a dynamic, evolving network that mimicked the most complex biological systems. Commander Kai watched the interaction with a sense of profound understanding. This wasn't just about defending a colony. This was about demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to existence. Your technological paradigm is linear, Zara explained. Ours is recursive. We don't just adapt to our environment, we engage in a continuous dialogue with it. The Convergence representative's energy patterns began to shift, not in threat, not in aggression, but in something closer to fascination. Unspoken between them was a crucial realization. The Convergence had come expecting to find a primitive colony. Instead, they had discovered a civilization that challenged everything they understood about technological development. Outside, the metallic planes of Novus Prime continued their subtle, almost imperceptible movements. The planet itself seemed to be breathing, waiting. Lieutenant Rodriguez tracked the communication protocols. "They're transmitting our data," she reported, "to every known civilization in their network." Dr. Marcus Reyes allowed himself a small smile. "Not a battle report," he said, "a discovery." The turning point had arrived, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what true innovation looked like. The aftermath of the Convergence encounter rippled across the known galaxy like a quantum tremor. What had begun as a potential conflict had transformed into something unprecedented, a fundamental reshaping of technological understanding. Months after the initial confrontation, Novus Prime had become more than a colony. It was a beacon of possibility. Dr. Zara Kovalenko stood in the primary research complex, reviewing the cascade of transmissions from civilizations across the galactic network. The data was unprecedented. Entire technological paradigms were being re-examined, challenged, reimagined. "We didn't just defend ourselves," Commander Kai Nakamura observed, joining her at the holographic display. "We changed the conversation." The Convergence's initial assessment of humanity had been catastrophically wrong. What they had perceived as a primitive species struggling on a marginal world was now recognized as something far more profound. A civilization that approached existence itself as a dynamic, adaptive process. Dr. Marcus Reyes entered the room, carrying a data crystal that seemed to pulse with its own internal light. "The xenotechnology research teams are losing their minds," he said with a slight smile. "Every assumption is being challenged." The implications were staggering. Humanity's approach to technology, seeing it not as a static tool but as a living, evolving ecosystem, was revolutionizing understanding across multiple advanced civilizations. Where others saw limitations, humans saw opportunities. Where others built rigid systems, humans created adaptive networks. Lieutenant Aria Rodriguez pulled up a series of comparative analyses. The technological development curves were unlike anything previously recorded. Humanity wasn't just advancing, it was transforming the very concept of advancement. "They're studying us," Zara explained, pointing to the intricate communication patterns. "Not as a potential threat, but as a new way of understanding existence." The Convergence had discovered something profound about humanity. It wasn't technological superiority that made humans unique. It was their ability to see potential where others saw only obstacles, their capacity for radical adaptation, their fundamental belief that every challenge was an opportunity for growth. Novus Prime itself had become a living testament to this philosophy. The planetary systems continued their subtle, almost organic movements. Energy flowed not in linear patterns, but in complex, adaptive networks. The very landscape was a conversation between technology, environment, and imagination. "We're not just surviving," Kai said, looking out over the metallic plains that had become home. "We're evolving." The final transmission from the Convergence representative had been both a warning and an invitation. Humanity was no longer an unknown quantity. They were a potential, a new way of understanding technological and cultural development. Marcus activated a final holographic display. It showed the intricate network of human colonies, each one a testament to adaptation and resilience. "We're just getting started," he said quietly. As the metallic winds of Novus Prime continued their eternal dance, humanity looked to the stars. Not with fear, not with aggression, but with an unquenchable curiosity. The galaxy would never be the same. And this was just the beginning.